The United States has meanwhile vetoed a United Nations Security Council resolution that would have called for humanitarian pauses in the Gaza-Israel war for the humanitarian aid to flow. The vote on the resolution drafted by Brazil had been delayed twice as the United States on its part agreed on a deal with Egypt for an aid corridor. 12 members voted in favor of the draft text while Russia and UK abstained from voting. On Wednesday, during the US President Joe Biden's visit, Israel agreed to allow aid into Gaza through Rafah crossing near Egypt. Washington says it is direct diplomacy that can save lives. In addition, US was disappointed that the draft did not mention anything about Israel's right to self-defense.
We have to also bear in mind that Hamas does not represent all the Palestinians.
The United States is disappointed this resolution made no mention of Israel's rights of self-defense. Let's be clear. Hamas's own actions have brought this on, this severe humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And Hamas has caused so much needless suffering, death, and destruction. Every member state should condemn Hamas's terrorism and cruelty, and every member state should call on Hamas to cease its endless barrage of rockets against Israel. This is not complicated. It's not controversial. This is the bare minimum.
Speaking at the UN meet, the Palestinian envoy made an emotional appeal to stop the bloodshed in Gaza. Riyad Mansour slammed the UN for ailing to approve a resolution for humanitarian pause.
A political disaster is underway. And yet, the Security Council of the United Nations is unable to say the only thing that truly matters. Stop the bloodshed. I repeat, stop the bloodshed. For those who think they can avert a humanitarian catastrophe and a regional spillover while Israel continues bombing and killing Palestinians, think again. The region is united in telling you it is not possible. Listen to them. The only way to prevent both is to stop this criminal aggression against our people.
Russia also slammed the United States' steps, saying we have once again witnessed the double standards of our American colleagues. Earlier on Monday, a Russian drafted resolution that called for a humanitarian ceasefire failed to pass as well. Meanwhile, China said that US had been leading the House for 2 days for the adoption of resolution, but the result is nothing short of unbelievable. In response to United States veto on the resolution, Turkey said, and I quote, United Nations Security Council, which has become even more ineffective, has once again not fulfilled its responsibility. The draft UN resolution also urged Israel, without naming it, to revoke its order for civilians and UN staff to move towards south in Gaza. Israel ordered some 1.1 million people in Gaza to move to the southern part last week as it prepares for a ground offensive after the deadliest Hamas attack on Israel in its 75 years of history. The resolution, while condemning all violence and hostilities against civilians, also called for the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. Hamas is holding nearly 200 hostages at different locations in Gaza, and this includes Israelis and other foreign nationals. Our correspondent Susan Teherani sends us this report on the US veto on the UNSC vote for humanitarian aid to Gaza and its resulting geopolitical ramifications. Take a look.
After the United States vetoed the UN Security Council resolution calling for a humanitarian pause on Wednesday, Russia said that it had asked the 193 members of the UN General Assembly to convene for a special session on the conflict. It could decide to put forth a resolution to vote there. And although General Assembly resolutions are non-binding, members insist that they do carry political weight. The United States on Wednesday at the Security Council said that it was disappointed to not see any mention of Israel's right to self-defense at the resolution put forth. We did learn on Wednesday that Israel had agreed to open corridors for humanitarian aid through Egypt's Rafah crossing. Nonetheless, the UN Middle East peace envoy speaking to the council said that there is a very real and extremely dangerous risk of the conflict spilling over to other parts of the region as well, while UN aid chief Martin Griffith, who was speaking from Egypt, said, quote unquote, that we urgently need a mechanism agreed by all relevant parties to allow for a regular provision of emergency needs throughout Gaza. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.